Well, we are here with the director Dustin Murphy to talk about his new movie Teleport. Um, Dustin, thank you for your time to talk with us.
Thanks for having me on, Benjamin.
So, Teleport deals with many different and complicated topics. So, what first gave you the idea to tell this particular story?
Well, the first impetus was I'm always a big fan of sci-fi, and in particular social or dystopian sci-fi that can be used as a conversation starter for social commentary. And the first spark came with thinking about if we take teleportation technology and apply it to the real world, how would that work? How would that open up Pandora's box in terms of things that could get complicated? Because a lot of times when people create new technologies, they always oversell the benefits and undersell the potential risks and dangers involved with it. So our angle was to look at how would this affect things like immigration, refugee crisis, border security, things like that, and kind of give you a peek into that world.
And the film shows the pain of LGBT community plus and refugees. How did you make sure to show their experiences in a real and respectful way?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that came through a lot of research. I think it is kind of a
Mhm.
misconception that the mistreatment of the LGBTQ community has been uh, conquered in a lot of ways because it has made a lot of progress in Western societies, but there are still several countries in the world where it is illegal to be in a same-sex relationship, and that is the reason why some people have to flee those countries. So yeah, looking at those type of experiences and packaging it in a sci-fi film in a different way to reach a different market that might not necessarily be looking to actively looking for queer stories. I think was kind of the way to do it, to expand the footprint and potential reach of these stories, which yeah, I think is one of the most respectful things you can do is allyship and be on people's side when it comes to saving lives in foreign countries.
And I think you talked about this before, the recent laws in Uganda and the other places have made life harder for LGBTQ plus people.
Mhm.
Even though teleport won't be shown in those countries, what message do you hope the film sends to people in other parts of the world uh, who can watch it and talk about these issues?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing about art that's great in watching a film is, it really helps get you into the experiences and develop empathy for different types of people that you might not really understand their struggles, right? I think we're living in an era of constant vilification of refugees, a lot of vilification of immigrants. A lot of people in power want to make those unfortunate people who are forced to, leave their country into the villains. These people are coming over here to steal your jobs, yada, yada, yada. And it's my hope that by packaging this in a sci-fi film, we're going to, at first, capture audiences that, just want to be entertained by a futuristic dystopian story, and they'll start to see parallels between the story that we're telling and what's really happening in real life. So as with most of my work, it's the impetus for creating art is just to expand people's ability to have empathy towards situations and plights outside of their own.
And also in Teleport, prostitution shown as a way to survive, but
Mhm.
we also see the bad side of it, like women being like trafficked and treated like objects. So how did you handle these sensitive topics, uh, and what message do you do you want to send about the exploitation of women and in vulnerable situations?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's unfortunate that this type of stuff is, again, not a thing of the
Hmm.
past. When we think of terms like slavery or human trafficking, I think a lot of people think that that is a bigger issue in the past, but there's more people living in slavery today than there has ever been. And there is, a lot of human trafficking, and there's, different sides to sex workers. Specifically, we're talking about the people who are being vilified and mistreated by the people in power, and specifically trying to point out the hypocrisy of those people in power. Isn't too much of a spoiler, but essentially our refugee characters get teleported into what they believe is a safe house, and then they find out that it's actually a brothel where, in order to pay their keep, they're expected to sleep with the clientele. But very specifically, the clientele happen to be the very anti refugee, anti-immigration politicians
Hmm.
that are then taking advantage of them. And I think, to me, that's my biggest point. I'm not really trying to make a wider statement about sex work
Hmm.
or um, uh, all the different facets and complications of human trafficking, but specifically about the politicians that are creating the problems, benefiting from the problems that they create, and kind of their lack of humanity, juxtaposed to their victims, unfortunately, and the people who have to find a way to survive.
And as you say, sci-fi let us imagine different futures. So how did you use this type of story to talk about real world problems and get people talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very grounded. It's a very grounded sci-fi film. I mean, one of my favorite references that we had was Children of Men, and anybody who's seen that knows that it's essentially a world that looks identical to ours, just with slight little tweaks on reality, and that's what we tried to do as well. So it's a very, I think the film could work as a drama, with the type of messages that we're trying to say, but I think infusing that little element of excitement into it with um, teleportation. And I think it makes it a little bit more eye-catching. And yeah, that's why I think it can reach audiences in a different way.
Well, Teleport talks about controversial issues uh, and complex also, especially from a female point of view, like
Mhm.
woman traffic, lesbianism, and objectivation. So, as a male director, how did you get ready to deal with these issues in sensitive and respectful way? And how do you hope the film will add to the conversation about women's rights?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of maybe misconception about the industry is that there's obviously these auteur directors
Mhm.
who create a singular vision. I like to work infinitely more collaboratively, and anybody who's seen the film knows that it's a female protagonist. It's a lot of supporting characters as well. um Sorry, do we have time for a little break? I'm noticing an alarm going off. Can you hear that?
No,
Okay, I'll try to ignore it then if you can't hear it. Sorry about that.
no
Let me
worry.
start over. Is this editable?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
yeah. So no worry.
All right. Um, yeah. So, gosh, so distracting.
So if you
Uh,
want to go to put it off, it's okay.
I don't think it's
I can
mine. I
put
think
this.
it's my neighbor's. Okay, I'll try to just power through. It doesn't seem to be going off. Um,
So if you want, we can start with the question again.
yeah, start with the question again. Prompt me again.
Yeah,
Prompt me
yeah,
again.
okay. So Teleport talks about controversial complex issues, especially from female point of view. So like woman traffic, lesbianism. As a male director, how did you get ready to deal with these issues in a sensitive and respectful way? And how do you hope the film will add to the conversation about women rights?
Sure. So yeah, I think there's kind of a misconception that the director does get a lot of credit for
Mhm.
the film, and yeah, directors are an integral part, but filmmaking is definitely a collaborative effort, and the best directors know that they're not just
Mhm.
trying to hammer their own vision regardless of what anybody else thinks. So, I worked with some great collaborators on this project, many of who, brought a little bit more of their own authentic female perspective to things. And personally, I don't believe it's that hard to get into other people's headspaces if you always approach it with a level of empathy and understanding about the human experience that's always behind people's individual experiences, right? Everybody wants to be treated as an individual rather than just a statistic and a demographic. So I'm always interested in a lot of, deep character studies and enabling a healthy work environment where everybody feels comfortable bringing their own ideas to the table. And I think those type of themes throughout the piece, are always conversation starters. We're having a conversation about it right now. Um, I'd be hesitant to take any, responsibility for how the film, you know, can drastically change women's rights issues that we currently face. But hopefully it's just another little chink at the armor as we try to fight for a more fair world for all.
And were there any special challenges will make it this film? I don't know, maybe the script, choosing actors, creating the special effects for teletransportation.
Sure, sure. I mean, the biggest thing is this is a micro-budget feature film. So, it was
Hmm.
made on an absolute shoestring budget by a very, very passionate team that was all stretching themselves in order to get this thing made. So many of the cast and crew were stakeholders in the project. So this is really, really a labor of love. But that means we had limited money, which means we had limited time and limited resources to try to pull off this big vision. And I think that was the biggest challenge is how to get it off the ground.
And well, a little bit more about you. What are your next projects, and how do they connect to the topics you care about?
Yeah. Um, well, my filmography is quite diverse in terms of genre.
Hmm.
So I'm not always just interested in sci-fi. I'm typically interested in having some sort of a genre angle into my work, whether that be sci-fi or horror. The next thing that I'm massively focusing on is a psychological thriller, which is an expansion from my short film that's currently on the festival circuit. It's called Everything Is Out to Get Me. And it's kind of, I won't give too much away, but it's kind of like Stephen King's Misery meets Rosemary's Baby, with a little twist of Gone Girl in there. So one thing that I think you'll see throughout my work is I'm typically taking some sort of a social angle, giving it a bit of a genre spin. And I love lots of twists and turns. So really heavily crafted structures and outlines rather than just fly on the wall watching situations unfold. It's a little bit more of a puzzle. I like making puzzles.
I saw that in this movie. And how do you see the future of cinema in terms of showing different kinds of people and being inclusive, especially for the LGBT plus community or refugees with all these things happen now around the world?
Yeah. I mean, the future of cinema, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's obviously a lot of conversations happening right now about, AI taking over and, what's happening in the studio world is, a lot of business people are trying to take power away from the creatives. And I think if you're talking about the film industry, I think it's most successful when the business needs and the creative needs are equal. And unfortunately, we're currently in a place where the business needs are up here and a lot of the creative needs are down much lower. So you still get these amazing breakthrough projects that the business people might think are risky, because they deal with more hard-hitting topics or hard-hitting characters or something that just doesn't feel as safe. And that's where I think it's artists' responsibility to push back and say, no, we want to be independent. We want to tell interesting, original, authentic stories. And the way to do that is it's never been easier to make a film.
Mm.
Access to the technology makes it easier than ever. So a lot of people are still trying to go to those industry gatekeepers at studios and plead for millions and millions. But if you can find a way to tell your stories economically and independently, then I think you have a higher chance of creating authentic, meaningful art.
And do you think films can create real change in society?
I do. In terms of they can ask questions that
Mhm.
need to be
Yeah.
asked.
Mm.
And then the film needs to be seen in order to have people asking those questions, have people thinking about it, and then moving forward. So a film alone will never make a difference, but I think it's a key part to bringing awareness to things, bringing discussion to things, and yeah, opening people's perspectives. So hopefully people will make those decisions to change things for the better.
And random question.
Sure.
Uh, If you could teleport anywhere or to any time, where would you go and why?
Ooh. Well, it's almost two different questions because I mean, teleportation is thinking of, we're teleporting to a different location at the same time as now. Um, so it doesn't have that time travel element. So I would say if I was just teleporting, I would probably choose to have my uh, evening drink after work on a beach somewhere in the tropics. I like tropical holidays. So I would say, yeah, Hawaii or someplace like that. But yeah, I mean, as far as time travel, ooh, that would be a difficult one. I mean, I'm always fascinated by going back to the 1920s, 1930s. A lot of that culture interests me. A lot of, the great formation of cinema history that came from that time really interests me. But I mean, a lot of stuff interests me. I mean, just as long as I don't get stuck in some crazy time, it'd be interesting to just dip in every once in a while, see what it's all about.
And really important, where and when people can watch the film.
Sure. So Teleport has just been released in the UK, so you can watch it on Amazon, you can watch it on Sky, and it's been previously released in the US and Canada as well under its original title, Coyote, which is slang for border jumper. And then we will be expanding to other territories that are still in negotiation. And you can probably just keep up with it all on our socials, which is Teleport Yourself. So check it out there and you can see where it might be. But in the UK, Sky or Amazon's your best place.
Perfect. Well, Dustin, thank you very much for your time to talk with us more about this movie, and congratulations. I saw the movie 2 days ago, and I think it's amazing film to ask questions and put this topic in conversation with people. So I really hope that a lot of people watch this movie. Great job. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Benjamin. Really appreciate you watching in the interview.